Hello, you're watching AnewZ Morning from Baku. I'm Bakir Sanov, and here are the top stories. South Korean president declares to lift martial law after parliamentary backlash. France's government faces no confidence votes that could spell the end of the short-lived administration of Prime Minister Michel Barnier. COP16 continues in Saudi Arabia's Riyadh. Participants are calling for strong cooperation to address desertification and land degradation. There are calls for dismissals in the South Korean government. It's after President Yoon Suk-yeol's surprise martial law declaration sparked chaos in Seoul on Tuesday. It led to mass protests and clashes outside the National Assembly.
Thousands of people protested in South Korea's capital after the unexpected martial law declaration by the country's president. It triggered the biggest political crisis in decades in Asia's fourth-largest economy. Just a few hours later the declaration, Yoon Suk-yeol reversed his decision. It's after the parliament unanimously voted to lift the decree.
After the National Assembly's demand to lift martial law troops have been withdrawn. I will accept the National Assembly's demand and lift martial law through a cabinet meeting.
Now, South Korea's ruling People Power Party calls for Defense Minister Kim Young-hyun's dismissal. The opposition Democratic Party is calling the move a breach of constitutional order. They argue that the martial law declaration was an abuse of power and are calling for stronger actions to hold the president accountable.
Even if martial law is lifted, he cannot avoid treason charges. It was clearly revealed to the entire nation that President Yoon can no longer run the country normally.
By Wednesday morning, protests continued outside the National Assembly, led by South Korea's largest labor union group, the Korean Confederation of Trade Union. They say they will continue demonstrating until the president resigns. Many residents are anxious after the last 24 hours of political turmoil. Some express fear for the future of the country, while others are still trying to comprehend the impact of such an unprecedented move.
It was an experience that I have only seen in movies, and I realized how much more serious it is than I had imagined. The current economic condition is difficult, and the fact that the president is causing such anxiety among residents makes the situation so much worse. I'm deeply disturbed by this kind of situation, and I'm very concerned about the future of this country.
Last night I happened to wake up from my sleep and came across the news. At first I was scared and very confused. I kept thinking, what's going on? Is this something that could actually happen in this era? I couldn't sleep until the martial law was lifted because I was so frightened.
South Korea's financial markets have been volatile, with the won hitting a two-year low and stocks falling. While the government has promised to take measures to stabilize the economy, the political uncertainty continues to affect public confidence.
Pro-EU protesters and police clash for a sixth consecutive night in Georgia. Thousands of people have converged on Georgia's parliament again to protest against the ruling Georgian Dreams Party's decision to suspend talks on joining the European Union. Demonstrators gathered outside the parliament building in the capital Tbilisi as police fired tear gas to disperse the crowds, and protesters tossed fireworks at police. The protests erupted after the government decided to hold the EU accession talks, in addition to renouncing any funding from the bloc until 2028. Georgian government reacted to the ongoing protests in the country. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze says an attempt to stage a revolution has failed. Prime Minister addressed the media following violent protests in Tbilisi over the government's decision to delay EU accession talks. Clashes between protesters and riot police left dozens injured and over 20 people arrested. Kobakidze compared the unrest to Ukraine's 2014 Maidan uprising. calling for calm and assuring peace. He also said legal action against protest organizers would be handled by prosecutors.
So the attempt to organize the Maidan in Georgia is already over. I would call everybody to keep quiet, let's say, and to keep peace in this country. So we are responsible for that. I can assure everybody that there will be peace in this country.
Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and his German counterpart Annalena Baerbock held discussions on pressing international developments, including the situations in Syria, Gaza and Ukraine. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the NATO Foreign Ministers meeting in Brussels, according to the Turkish Foreign Ministry. Germany's Foreign Ministry says Turkey is strategically important in addressing regional issues and crisis, calling the country a key player in the region. The NATO meeting in Brussels is expected to continue addressing key security challenges with discussions focusing on collective defense and regional stability. Russia views Ukraine's potential full membership in NATO as unacceptable because it would pose a security threat. That's according to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. He told reporters that the idea of Ukraine joining NATO is an absolute contrast to Russia's position on the indivisibility of security. He says the security of one country cannot come at the expense of another. Peskov also argued that the prospects of NATO membership doesn't address the root cause of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Earlier, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry said that they will not accept any alternatives or substitutes for Kiev's full NATO membership, arguing that this is the only real security guarantee for the country. The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or OCCRP, is known for its high-profile investigations, including Panama Papers. However, recent reports by Mediapart and other sources raise questions about its funding and independence.
According to Mediapart, OCCRP operates with an annual budget of 20 million euros, employing 200 people. Over the past decades, it received 52% of its funding, totaling $47 million from the US government. Additionally, $15.2 million came from the EU and other European governments, while $24.9 million was provided by individuals and private foundations. Mediapart also reports that OCCRP received $2.2 million from the US State Department between 2015 and 2019 for a project titled Balancing the Russian Media Space. Another $1.7 million was allocated from 2019 to 2023 for strengthening investigative journalism in Eurasia, focusing on regions such as Russia, China, and Central Asia. The US Department of State provided $2.3 million for a project in Malta and Cyprus to expose corruption and enhance investigative journalism, as detailed in federal funding records. This program was renewed in September 2023 with an additional $1.3 million. These regions are widely known for attracting Russian oligarchs, according to the report. OCCRP participated in the Cyprus confidential investigation coordinated by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. The investigation focused on alleged financial misconduct and sanctions breach in Cyprus. On 14 November 2023, Cyprus announced official investigations into claims of sanctions violations, with the findings published in collaboration with OCCRP. 3 weeks later, teams from the FBI and FENSIN arrived in Cyprus to assist, according to official statements. Mediapart's investigation includes statements from OCCRP founder Drew Sullivan, who acknowledged that OCCRP avoids reporting on US-related issues due to restrictions tied to funding from the US government and the Open Society Foundations. USAID reportedly refers to OCCRP as a partner organization and has oversight over projects and editorial leadership as outlined in public records. According to the same reports, several journalists who contributed to uncovering these connections have alleged threats from the OCCRP's leadership. These claims have been reported by Mediapart and other investigative outlets. The questions raised by these findings underscore the complex relationship between investigative organizations and their funding sources. As these revelations continue to unfold, OCCRP's role in global journalism remains a point of intense debate.
In France, the National Assembly is set to debate two no-confidence motions on Wednesday, certain to oust the fragile coalition of Prime Minister Michel Barnier. It's after that he made a decision to overstep Parliament to pass the Social Security budget. Our correspondent Rose Cullen has more on the developments.
The French Prime Minister will be facing no confidence votes on Wednesday. His position now here in Paris is particularly perilous because he forced legislation through Parliament. He pushed the budget bill through Parliament, bypassing MPs, not giving them a vote. It did mean that you can get your legislation through Parliament, but if you do that in France, it does open yourself up to the possibility of facing no confidence votes, and that's exactly what's going to happen here in France on Wednesday. The left-wing opposition and the far-right opposition have both submitted motions of no confidence in the French Prime Minister. Those votes will take place on Wednesday evening local time, and if Michel Barnier does lose one of those no confidence votes, he will resign. He will submit a letter of resignation to the French president, who can then choose to reappoint Michel Barnier or can look for someone else. Bear in mind, it did take the French president weeks and weeks over the summer after inconclusive election results in July to finally choose Michel Barnier to be the French Prime Minister, but he leads a minority government, has come under extreme pressure with this budget legislation for 2025 and finally chose to use executive powers to push that legislation through, but now faces these no confidence votes. If he were to lose one of those votes on Wednesday, he would become the shortest-serving French Prime Minister in modern history, and it would be the first time that a government has been brought down by the opposition since 1962. Ross Cullen for AnewZ in Paris.
The Middle East, once often overlooked in climate discussions, now has the opportunity to have its voice heard. The MENA region has long struggled with desertification, and hosting COP16 offers a platform to assert its leadership in finding solutions. Our correspondent Narchicek Jahangirli has more from COP16 venue in Riyadh.
An atmosphere reminiscent of tents set up in the desert is complemented by the trees and the bushes inside the venue, which attributes a hope, something that we expect from the land negotiations.
The ambience at the COP16 venue in Riyadh speaks volumes about the significance of this event. People are welcomed by vibrant decorative tents and prayer rooms that reflect Saudi Arabia's unique blend of tradition and modernity.
So having it happening here, it creates more awareness to the community in Saudi Arabia, but also to the world globally. People can understand even in areas with prone or threat to desertification, there's still efforts can happen. I've gone around Saudi Arabia and I've seen a lot of efforts that are happening to combat desertification.
Has to have a policy, one policy, and it has to be something that we can work with, something that will be successful. And there are lots of challenges, of course they are here, but I think that it is important to work together.
Saudi Arabia's role as a host is more than symbolic. Many cultural elements not only provide functional spaces but also emphasize the kingdom's commitment to integrating sustainability with its rich heritage. However, it also gives a very strong message. Collaboration is the key.
So I think it's wonderful that they're voicing their support for the mission of UNCCD by hosting COP16 this year. But I think land degradation is a global issue that, you know, not just one country or one region is facing.
COP16 in Riyadh is not just a regional event, it's a global call to action. The unique atmosphere of COP16 serves as a reminder that the solutions to these challenges must be collaborative, innovative, and inclusive of those who have lived with them firsthand.
That's our Narchicek Jahangirli reporting on the latest from COP16 in Riyadh. Still at the conference, Azerbaijan is elected as the chair of the Central and Eastern Europe Regional Group for a 2-year term within the framework of the mission. The group also includes 15 countries from Eastern and Central Europe. Within this group, priority areas have been identified, including strengthening regional activities, enhancing knowledge and ecological agriculture. Azerbaijan became a member of the COP16 Bureau as well. It represents 12 regions and oversees the implementation of COP decisions, as well as organizing the work for future COP meetings. The United Nations is sounding alarm on droughts and says it will cost the world over $300 billion every year.
At the COP16 conference in Riyadh, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification revealed a staggering warning. By 2025, drought could affect 75% of the global population, driven largely by environmental damage. The report calls for urgent investment, $1 billion daily from 2025 to 2030, in solutions like reforestation and water conservation. UN Convention to Combat Desertification Executive Secretary Ibrahim Tiav called for significantly increasing investments in land restoration to protect lives and livelihoods. The message is clear: tackling drought is critical to saving both economies and communities.
Tensions between China and Philippines seem to escalate. The Philippine Coast Guard accused Chinese Navy of aggressive actions against a routine patrol in South China Sea. The Coast Guard spokesperson said that a Chinese vessel fired a water cannon, aiming directly at the navigational antennas. Tensions between China and the Philippines over the South China Sea have steadily escalated throughout the year. China claims nearly the entire South China Sea, a vital waterway for more than $3 trillion of annual shipborne commerce, parts of which are also claimed by Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. China is willing to work with Australia, says Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian. This comes as Beijing lifts trade restrictions on 2 Australian meat processing facilities, allowing red meat exports to resume. China, Australia's second largest market for beef and while receiving around $1.5 billion in recent years, banned 10 Australian meat facilities between 2020 and 2022, while Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian declined to comment directly on the lifting of restrictions. He stated that China is willing to work with Australia on bilateral concerns. A gingerbread recreation of a Hungarian village featuring 100 small houses, local businesses, churches, and the mayor's office has been presented by local residents.
Housed in a heritage center for the Slovak minority in the village of Chomor, the gingerbread village also features details such as a working train, church windows made of crushed candy, and lampposts also modeled in gingerbread with LED lights. The shopping list for the gingerbread village includes 70 kilos of flour, 20 kilos of icing sugar, 20 kilos of honey, and 220 eggs, along with other ingredients.
There has been a huge cooperation from our village. People brought in Christmas trees and various decorations when I asked for help in our Facebook group to make this nice. And many people worked on the gingerbread village in the evenings after 7, coming from work, often working with us till midnight. Others who are pensioners came in the morning already and spent the day on this, so there was a huge cooperation.
Gingerbread is a sweet treat which symbolizes the sharing and family unity of the Christmas holiday.
That's all we have for this hour. You can also get the latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is AnewZ.tv. Thank you for watching, and also we wish you a good day ahead.